Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk Suicide Squad once again. And in this case, what I'm going to show you is a number of different things. First thing I want to show you, of course, you see that its domestic estimate places it at present at 320,845,629. That's an estimate, okay? When you look at its worldwide gross, this is an estimate as well, which does not take into account that the foreign earnings are changing as well over the weekend. So that's a very important point to just keep a mental note of. It is 733,845,629. Okay, good. So what does that mean? In terms of worldwide domestic box office, that means that Suicide Squad now is ahead of Transformers. Clearly. It's just clearly ahead of Transformers by a million and something. And also, it means that it's now at the 49th spot. It's no longer at 50. So it's climbing up now the chain, and we'll see how far up it'll go. We'll see. Then the next thing, when we look at the worldwide box office, Suicide Squad now is at position number 79. It's past Gravity. But remember, we have not counted in the international box office amounts as well. And when you put the international box office together with your domestic box office, I think it's going to be a way above 733.8 million. So I think it will surpass Up, which is it's an animation. I don't know if it'll get as far as Matrix Reloaded. I don't think so. But it will pass Up. I'm pretty sure about that. So that will leave it at the end of this weekend, coming into the new weekend at 78th place in all-time grossing movies worldwide, which is very impressive. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you guys is that its multiplier, when you take its domestic earnings so far and divide it by its opening weekend, its multiplier is now 2.4. And that's interesting because 2.4 multiplier, or 2.4x, leaves it way ahead of the second place, which was X-Men Apocalypse, and also puts it now in a category where it is just behind Man of Steel. Man of Steel is 2.496, so 2.5. So it's about 0.1 behind Man of Steel. So it's the second highest, or second leggiest, or second highest word of mouth film in the DCEU so far. Now here's something else worth noting. We know that it's second to Deadpool, and when we look at Deadpool's weekend box office grosses, remember Deadpool came out of a very extended weekend, a great weekend with Valentine's Day. So it actually started at 152 million, but nonetheless, Deadpool in its 9th weekend earned $2 million roughly, okay, and it came in at the 11th spot in its 9th weekend. Here's the interesting thing about Suicide Squad. When we look at the weekends, Suicide Squad has done exactly the same thing, even though it was ranked a little higher the weekend before. It's come in the 11th place and is just near $2 million. Suicide Squad is really closing the gap. And the other thing about it is, when you look at Suicide Squad's decline so far, it's 38.7%. Deadpool at that point in time declined by 39.7%. It's really, they're basically behaving roundabout the same way. These are the number of cinemas that Deadpool had at the point in time. Suicide Squad has more cinemas, just slightly. And all of this is very interesting. Remember, Suicide Squad began at 133 million, but Deadpool really actually began at the end of the weekend at 152 million, even though we say that its opening weekend was 132 million. It really started off at 152 million, okay? So it was slightly higher. It was higher than Suicide Squad by about almost $20 million. So when you look here, it had a nice head start. And again, it's roughly about 38 million more than Suicide Squad at this point in time. So it actually had a better head start. And then, of course, it didn't have that big drop like Suicide Squad had. in its second weekend, so that I think all of that helped out. But basically, its declines are around about the same as Suicide Squad. You had a 44%, 46%, 34, 26, 38, 29, and then 39. When you look at Suicide Squad, it had a 67, was a big second weekend drop. A 52%, still bigger, and then it just really did well. It went down by 41% in its fourth weekend. In its fifth weekend, it actually went up by 3.6%, and then it went down 42.7. I think this little thing here helped it to catch up with Deadpool. 42%, 7%, 39, and now 33.9, and then 38%. This is really something that I thought was phenomenal, because it's just about 100,000 behind Deadpool right now. Isn't that remarkable at this point in the game? So that's awesome. And there's a lot of similarities between Deadpool and Suicide Squad as well. I'll give you a couple. Deadpool was leaked out, and then it entered into Comic-Con. Suicide Squad was leaked out, and then it entered into Comic-Con. There was a huge Deadpool fan base for Deadpool. Suicide Squad had a huge marketing campaign that really got people involved in Suicide Squad. So, there was these little parallels that got the ball rolling for these two franchises. And then the next thing that really got them rolling was the fact that there was a good word of mouth for both of them. When you look at Deadpool, it's 2.74x. When you look at Suicide Squad, it's 2.4x and rising. We'll see how far it gets. Will it be able to reach Man of Steel's 2.5x? I don't know. We'll have to see. But to do that, it'll have to do a phenomenal job, including passing Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know if that's really realistic when you stop and think about it. But if it's following the trend of Deadpool, if you look at Deadpool here, after it has earned its last million over the weekend, was his night weekend, it had a total of 358 million, and it went on to make 363 million, was just a little less, just a little under 7 million it made in the following weeks. But of course it had 9 more weeks to make that money, so that's why it made 7 million. Suicide Squad is going to have 12 weeks left after that, because usually Warner Brothers, they keep it for 12 weeks. So, and not 12 weeks after that, it'll have 3 weeks after that. So I don't know how much more it will gross, but if it does gross anything like Man of Steel did, it will gross again like Deadpool around $6 million, $7 million. And if it does, then it will end somewhere around 327 million, which is about 3 million off from Batman v Superman. But of course, it could probably earn even more. And if it earns a little bit more than that, let's say it earns 10, 11 million, then it's going to pass Batman v Superman. So we have to watch and see how that pans out. But if it earns 10 million, it's going to pass Batman v Superman. If it earns 11 million, it's going to pass Batman v Superman. And we don't know if it's going to actually stay in the millions for another weekend. And if it does, then it will be even leggier in terms of its weekends over a million than Deadpool. So I don't know if that will happen. We'll have to wait and see how things pan out the next weekend. That'll be very interesting to see. So the only 2 movies that have been able to earn over $1 million for 9 weeks are Suicide Squad and Deadpool, in terms of weekend grosses, of course, and in terms of comic book movies this year. Civil War comes second after Deadpool and Suicide Squad. And I'm telling you right now, that is impressive. In terms of legs, Suicide Squad is way ahead of Civil War. It's way ahead of it now in terms of legs, and that's impressive. That's very impressive. All right, so I decided to give you guys this little update because the actual figures will come out sometime tomorrow or sometime Tuesday. And what will happen next weekend is going to be a determining factor if Suicide Squad will pass Batman v Superman or not. If it happens to make over $1 million next weekend, you can bet it will pass Batman v Superman's total. It will do that. If it doesn't, it's still going to end up respectable behind Batman v Superman, but within striking range of it. That's really good as well. So either way would be nice. Now, what do the critics have to say about the DCEU and Suicide Squad so far? They have trashed 3 of the DCEU movies. 3 of them have had Rotten Tomato scores by the critics. Why? Because the critics have just not enjoyed those movies for some reason or the other. I don't want to go into details about that right now in this video, but what I will do is I will show the beauty of the DCEU in some subsequent videos. I know I'm doing already Easter eggs of Suicide Squad. I'll continue that. But I really want to show you guys how much stuff is involved in these movies. Like, Man of Steel has so much detail in it, and that's what makes it so much fun. Even now I still learn things about Man of Steel, and then I get to trace those threads through Batman v Superman, and now I can even trace a little bit of the threads into Suicide Squad. Alright, so I'm really enjoying myself. I hope that to have a ball when all is said and done. I really enjoy the DCEU, and I look forward to Wonder Woman next. But first, let's see how Suicide Squad ends up before I get into Wonder Woman. Alright, on that note, you guys have a great one. Have a great week. I'm a Christian, so God bless you all. And if there are haters out there that hate on the DCEU, that's okay. They're going to turn around and become lovers of the DCEU. It's off and running. There's no reason to try and stop it or halt it. The critics are not going to be necessarily paid attention to by the general audience unless the movies really are crappy. Then I will be the first to say, oh, Wonder Woman was crap. You know, I'll straight up say it if it is. So, but so far, what I've seen of the DCEU, I have enjoyed immensely. All movies, I think what happened with Batman v Superman was people expected the movie to be a certain way, and it turned out to be something different, and I think that's why all this flack. But of course, over time, it's going to be a great legendary film. I like both the theatrical cut. I love the Ultimate Cut more than the theatrical cut. But I gotta say, man, the DCEU is just doing some phenomenal things. They really have a different slant. I like it. Do I like the MCU? Not as much as the DCEU, because, you know, I'm just a DCU kind of guy. It's just my taste. Don't worry about it. But that does not mean, this is a very important point people need to understand. It doesn't mean because MCU fans come across the DCU and enjoy the movies that means they will abandon the MCU. Come on, man. Come on. You can like both movies. You can like a DCU movie, and you can like an MCU movie. I enjoyed Captain America Civil War, and I thought it was a good, solid movie. And I've said it in my videos time and time again. I've never said that Captain America Civil War was crap. I've never said that Captain America the Winter Soldier is crap. I've never really said much about the MCU, have I? I've been talking about the DCEU. So don't get it twisted. It's not like I have a hate for the MCU. No, I don't hate anybody. I have a bone to pick with the people who are trying to tear down the DCEU unjustifiably. That's my bone to pick. If you're going to criticize something, at least come with something that merits sense. You know what I mean? If you're going to do destructive criticism, make it something that really is true. You know what I mean? That's the thing that I'm saying. Give the DCEU its fair shake. I know some of you critics out there don't want to see the DCEU do better than the MCU. Okay, fine, but don't go using your influence to try to manipulate the media to make people think that the DCEU is not as good as the MCU, when in fact it is, because it appeals to a large audience of people who it caters to, because these people have a certain taste. I'm dying. Look, I got influenced by not Iron Man, not the Avengers, not the Justice League. No, my influence was Batman 1989. That's where I got influence from. That changed my whole view of comic book movies on the big screen. Okay? Batman 1989 did it for me. And I was reading comics at the time. Batman had gotten pretty dark at the time. So it was lovely to see Batman on the screen basically representing that. Okay, I was like, man, this is a PG-13 film. I was like, my whole world was changed with Batman 1989. Okay, so you have to understand that there is a ton of people like me out there who long to see that kind of film on the big screen. Alright? Not the Christopher Nolan films. Christopher Nolan films, you know what? I like Christopher Nolan. Don't get me wrong. I loved Inception. Okay? But see, when you talk about comic book movies, Christopher Nolan kind of veered off from the comic book movie world. He did a comic book movie, kind of, sort of, kind of, I guess. Did love The Dark Knight, don't get me wrong. Love Heath Ledger's Joker. But I gotta admit it, guys. I gotta admit it. His core values are not the Joker's core values, you know, comic book wise. But when you talk about Batman and Christopher Nolan's version of Batman, hey, I'm not mad at Christopher Nolan. He pulled it off. He was successful. Alright? And he did do a couple things that, you know, had never really been elaborated on, and also made us think, oh, this is what Batman would be like if he was in the real world. And pretty cool. I liked it. Alright? But don't get me twisted, though. It's not comic book accurate. Take Zack Snyder now. Zack Snyder understands comic books. He understands DC comic books. You gotta understand that. And what Zack Snyder, and he really is a serious Superman fan. Oh man, Zack's a Superman fan. He really is. And what Zack has done is he's taken Justice League Unlimited. He's taken Supergirl. He's taken Batman the Animated Series. He's taken Batman and Superman, the comic books. All-Star Batman, the comic books. The Dark Knight Returns, the comic books. The Man Who Laughs, the comic books. He's taken the comic books and he's brought them to life, folks. He brought them to life. I can't believe it. I mean, come on, guys. I've been reading these comics and I keep on seeing Zack Snyder and his stuff that he's done. Anyway, it's too late in the night, so I gotta cut it right here. You guys have a great one.